Hey guys, Loading Gears here. Welcome back to my Xenosaga story series. On the last videos, that is Act 2, we went over the events that lead up to the Miltian conflict and the Miltian conflict itself. Now, we start Act 3. Act 3 will finally go over the first game in the Xenosaga series. Unless you count Pied Piper, but I don't. Well, sort of. You see, I really wanted Act 3 to start in the Xenosaga game, in the first Xenosaga game, but there's still just a tidbit of information between the Miltian conflict and the events of the first game. I was thinking of making one last video to Act 2 in order to get this information in there, but the end of the Miltian conflict just seemed like such a perfect place to end an act. So, anyways, we're going to go over those events now, and then we will begin on the first game. Let's go. Chapter 14. Post-Miltian Conflict Organizations. After the Miltian conflict, Joachim Mizrahi and the Song of Nephilim were blamed for the appearance of the Gnosis. In TC 4754, a year after the Miltian conflict, the Subcommittee on Close Encounters, or SOCE, aka simply as the Contact Subcommittee, was founded. This was a group of researchers convened by the Galaxy Federation for the purpose of countering the Gnosis, who have now become a constant threat to humanity. Its core consists of 7 members, one of which is Julie Mizrahi. The subcommittee is based on 5th Jerusalem and is on a space station tethered to the planet via a space elevator. At some point, Momo was recovered by the Federation from Proto Merkaba, and Proto Merkaba was thrown into the abyss along with Miltia. However, Proto Merkaba being thrown into the abyss was apparently just a cover story by some UTIC sleeper agents inside the Federation. It seems that UTIC actually managed to steal Proto Merkaba and keep it under wraps until needed. On the same year, the dreaded Life Recycling Act, the same one that had Jan Sauer from Pied Piper turned into a cyborg after his death, was revoked via the Species Preservation Act. The reason for this was that the Life Recycling Act was causing humanity to become fragile on a genetic level. Since humans were being genetically engineered to push personal agendas, the people engineering them were forgetting the basic natures of genes to add diversity to a species. Because of this, humans started to exhibit the same weakness, and thus, groups of humans that were at risk of extinction from the slightest change in environment started popping up in different places. This, in turn, caused more wars as humans would wage war to take control of planets or just specific areas of planets as they could not survive in other areas. Not only all that, but mentally unbalanced humans were starting to pop up all over the Federation because of the effects of the Life Recycling Act. This all means that the human race was imploding on the genetic level and needed a course correction. Because of this, the Species Preservation Act not only revoked the Life Recycling Act, but it also took steps to both propagate pure, non-genetically engineered human genes, but also to try to correct the genes of the life recycling variants. Since enforcement of the Species Preservation Act was left to the discretion of each autonomous government, the success and effects of it varied from planet to planet. Second Miltia, the refugee planet that was terraformed and colonized by Miltian refugees, had a government independent from the Galaxy Federation, but Helmer served as a representative for Second Miltia in the Galaxy Federation. In the year TC 4755, the Kukai Foundation is established by the Second Miltian government. Helmer played a principal role in establishing the foundation. It also receives a lot of funding from Vector. Before it became a foundation, its primary purpose was to find and apprehend or kill the remaining members of the UTIC organization, which had gone into hiding after the Miltian conflict. After it had accomplished this, it was demilitarized and it became a foundation. This is when it got the name the Kuka Foundation. I don't know what its name was before this. I don't know that they ever tell us. Anyways, the Kukai Foundation now has its own business goals separate from the Galaxy Federation and the Second Miltian government, but it still remains an influential party and still runs some undercover work for the Second Miltian government, as their private endeavors, now being separated from the government, are off the public record. After its demilitarization, the divisions of the Foundation branched off into their own ventures. Because of this setup, the Kukai Foundation became one of the top 10 fastest growing organizations in the Galaxy Federation. It does everything from tourism to entertainment, but also handles more serious matters such as rescuing life recycling variants from unlawful situations. Being designer children themselves, Rubido and Negredo make their home at the Kukai Foundation headquarters, which is a space colony free-floating in space. This colony grows over time, becoming one of the Foundation's main spots of tourism. The name Kukai Foundation can refer to the Foundation itself or the free-floating space colony where the Foundation HQ is based, much like Labyrinthos and the Labyrinthos Tower HQ. The year the Foundation is founded, a 14-year-old Negredo rescues Mary and Shelley Godwin from a pharmaceutical company who illegally owned them and used them as guinea pigs. Both Mary and Shelley were mutants, meaning they were life recycling variants. Although the Federation made it illegal to discriminate against mutants, a lot of people still discriminated against them. So Mary and Shelley made a home out of the Foundation, much like Negredo and Rubido, and most of the mutants that they founded and rescued. When Negredo gets older, he becomes the leader of the Kukai Foundation, which is why he and Rubido adopted the surnames Kukai. At some point, the Kukai Foundation manages to recover all Zohar emulators, save for the one that Utic took. Just a side note, because I have no idea where to put this in. At some point in time, Anti-Gnosis weapon systems, or AGWS, and pronounced like eggs, started being manufactured. Eggs are downscaled, weaker aims made to respond to Gnosis attacks. Because Gnosis tend to attack without any kind of warning, power and size was cut down in exchange for maneuverability and speed of deployment. They are powered by whatever starship they are stationed in by a remote generator, meaning that as long as they are within range of the ship and the ship is operational, they will never run out of fuel. They also tend to be supported by observational unit Realians. Also, while eggs tend to be used to refer to the anti-Gnosis mechas, the term can technically be used for any anti-Gnosis weapon system. Chapter 15, Cosmos. In the year TC 4763, the Miltian Charter was enacted. Among other things, this charter gave certain human rights to Realians to the point where they had more rights than some life recycling variants. During this time, a 24-year-old Kevin Winnicott now worked for Vector's first R&D division. There, he was continuing work on the battle android I mentioned he was working on in Miltia when he was part of Utic, the android Cosmos. During that same year, a now 18-year-old Shion Uzuki tries to get a job at Vector's 3rd Division, which is in charge in the production, education, and sales of Realians. However, Kevin pulled some strings and had her assigned to the 1st Division instead in order to keep her close to him and to help her grow close to Cosmos once she was completed. Why? Well, let's finally get into why Cosmos is so important. Cosmos is a battle android created to battle the Gnosis. She does this not only by being a complete badass with a crap ton of weapons, but by using something called the Hilbert effect. You see, when Gnosis come into the real number domain, they are almost in between worlds. They can interact with us, but not vice versa. The Hilbert effect pulls the Gnosis completely into our realm of existence, allowing us to interact with them. The Hilbert effect can also disable many high-end sensors. Although the 100 series observational Realians can emit the Hilbert effect, they can only emit it at a very short range. There are even spaceships that are equipped with the Hilbert effect, but they can only emit it for about 600 miles. Yes, I said only. Because Cosmos can emit the Hilbert effect with a range of 1 astronomical unit. That's a distance between the Earth and the Sun. This is what made Cosmos such an important weapon to the Federation, which made it a great cover story for why Wilhelm was really creating her. Yes, of course, Wilhelm has to have ulterior motives. The real reason for the creation of the Cosmos was to serve as a repository for the consciousness of Mary, which would slowly awaken inside Cosmos due to her connection to the UMN. But Cosmos was only a prototype. The idea is to allow Xion to resonate and grow close to Cosmos, and in turn resonate with Mary's will, as Xion was the reincarnation of the Maiden of Mary. But also to gather data through Cosmos experiences, and to have a place to hold Mary's consciousness while Wilhelm worked on the real version of the vessel he wanted for Mary's consciousness. However, for this, he would need to recover Mary's body, which is on Earth, making that task a little difficult. Remember when I said that the Y data was also relevant to Wilhelm, but I didn't say why because it wouldn't make sense at that moment? Well, this is why. Wilhelm needs the path to Lost Jerusalem contained in the Y data in order to retrieve Mary's body. While working for Vector, Xion worked on Cosmos. There, she met Kevin again, except I guess she forgot that she already knew him before. Either way, sometime later between TC-4763 and TC-4765, Xion and Kevin fell in love and they started dating. In TC-4764, a man named Alan Ridgely began working for Vector's 1st Division along Xion and Kevin. And that's all I had to say about him. At some point in time, Kevin gave his mother's pendant to Xion. Remember the pendant she gave him when she put him in the escape pod on Mictum? Remember? The one that's the activation key to the Zarathustra? Yeah, I'm sure you remember. Xion would come to remember these short couple of years working at Vector with Kevin as her happiest memories. However, all good things must come to an end. But first, let's take a look at someone we haven't heard of in a few videos. Chapter 16, Andrew Cherenkov. Yes, as the title of the chapter suggests, we're going to be talking about Andrew Cherenkov. You remember, right? The guy mentioned in the 4th video of the series for a total of 25 seconds? Well, I did tell you he was going to become more relevant later. Welcome to later. After the events of the Zoar incident, the Federation just kind of threw the surviving super soldiers back into society and pretty much told them to run off and lead happy, productive lives. However, this proved impossible for Andrew. Being engineered and born solely for the purpose of combat, he struggled to find any meaning or purpose in normal life. Unlike real-life soldiers who were traumatized by combat, it could be said that he was traumatized by normal life, or traumatized by a lack of combat. This is what he was born for: combat, violence, aggression. Yet every moment of civilized life forced him to repress this, to repress what he is. It all came to a head when, out of anger, he killed someone on the planet Ariadne. During his trial, his lawyer mentions that given his circumstances, he would qualify more as a victim of the life recycling law and should therefore not be given the death sentence and instead be given a more merciful punishment. The court decides that Andrew Cherenkov will undergo level 7 personality reconditioning, which involves the nanomachines implanted into the brain to control his behavior, and then drugs and medication to maintain the effect of the procedure. A symbol appears on his forehead to show this, even though the symbol is a Hebrew symbol for the number 1, not 7. So I don't know if this is a translation mistake or a graphic mistake. After this, Andrew begins having a more normal life and even gets married to his lawyer. However, after an unknown amount of time, he discovers that she only married him in order to obtain a permit that would allow her to have a child by cloning herself. The laws on this planet are weird. When Andrew confronts her about it and asks her why they can't have a child of their own, she mocks him, asking him what he could possibly want to leave behind with his abnormal DNA. She then tells him that there is no love between them, as she can get all the love she needs with a device she holds. A device that looks like a VR headset. I'll just leave that to your own interpretation. As she walks away from him, Andrew becomes enraged and walks towards her to, well, kill her. Boom! Back to court. The court orders that Andrew go through level 8 personality reconditioning. This allows the Galaxy Federation to treat him as a life form belonging to the government and strips Andrew of his human rights. He now has essentially the same rights as a Realian, if not less. The Hebrew symbol for the number 8 then appears on his head. They got it right this time. Andrew is seen sometime later walking the streets of Ariadne. There, he sees a little girl that resembles his wife. I've never been quite sure if this means that she cloned herself and this is her orphaned clone, or if this was a hallucination he had. Although many people will disagree with me, I've always leaned towards her being a hallucination because when he walks up to her, she just, for no reason, randomly calls him garbage.
Garbage.
Which, man, the way she says it has always made me laugh. Unfortunately, this wasn't as funny for the little girl because the word caused him to relapse and kill her. Which I guess kills my theory that it was a hallucination. Boom! Back to court. The judges seem to simply be amazed by how stubborn his neural network is, as they have never needed to use the level 9 procedure on anyone. Which means he would make a great test subject for the level 9 procedure. Yeah, nobody values human life anymore. So after the level 9 procedure, well, the game doesn't even bother showing us what happened when they just cut straight to a street full of corpses with Andrew at the center of it. But instead of going back to court, he is found by Margulis. Margulis, who now has a scar across his face thanks to Xenosaga, is amazed by Andrew's abilities, though they're still not enough to land a hit on Margulis. Understanding that he is a life recycling variant in need of a purpose, Margulis recruits him into Utic. During his time on Utic, Andrew found a sense of purpose. Margulis is seen giving him a self-indulgent, long-winded speech. It's really a bunch of stuff meant to tell you, yeah, this dude's a bad guy. But it served to convince Andrew to view other people as a means to an end and only to focus on the goal of the organization, as that's what was important. One of his first missions would link his and Shion's story. In TC 4765, Andrew is tasked with stealing Cosmos from a vector lab on the planet Carioca. In order to aid him, he was given a remote control by a shrouded figure. This remote control would, well, we're not sure, because it never worked properly, but more on that later. The shrouded figure was none other than Kevin Winnicott. You see, this was another one of Wilhelm's double-layered plans. Wilhelm arranged for Andrew to meet with Kevin so that Andrew could obtain this remote control. I'm guessing it was supposed to just open Cosmos' pod or maybe activate her in a setting that would make her friendly towards Utic soldiers. However, this is what Margulis and Utic were led to believe by Wilhelm. The real plan was to have Cosmos malfunction so that it would kill Kevin. Why? Because Kevin was becoming a distraction to Shion, and both Kevin and Wilhelm needed Shion and Cosmos to bond as much as possible. Kevin's death would serve to both take a distraction away from Shion, but also it would make her fixate on Cosmos, as Shion saw Cosmos as a link with Kevin. Kevin, of course, was fully aware of this plan. And so, the operation began. Utic, after years of hiding, invaded the Vector base on Carioca. As the soldiers walk in, they tell the scientists that if everyone cooperates, nobody will get hurt. Then, Andrew activates the remote given to him by Kevin and Cosmos' pod opened. Inside, we see a sort of ghetto version of Cosmos. This is what's called her archetype version, as she was not yet complete. Cosmos begins to twitch and exits her body in a terrifying spider-like manner. Malfunctioning, Cosmos begins to attack everyone on site. The official reason for her malfunction is that she wasn't complete and thus was not ready to be activated. However, some people believe that the remote Kevin gave Andrew contained a command for Cosmos that would cause her to do this. It kind of makes sense to me, as I find it hard to believe that Wilhelm would leave Kevin's death and Shion's life to chance. Either way, the results are the same. Cosmos goes on a killing spree. After killing a few Vector scientists and Utic soldiers, Cosmos targets Shion, but Kevin gets in the way and Cosmos plunges her arm right through his chest, killing him. As Shion is left crying with Kevin on her lap, Cosmos continues her carnage and she focuses her attention on Andrew, whom she almost kills. Luckily for him, a Utic ship arrives just in time to save the Nope, it gets destroyed. Oh, wow! It gets obliterated. Alright, anyways, Shion then goes outside to where Cosmos is and fires one clean shot at her head, destroying Cosmos. It was really that easy, huh? Andrew manages to escape Cosmos' wrath with his life, but many others were not so fortunate. There were no injuries in this incident, only deaths and people who were not attacked by Cosmos. Anyone who Cosmos targeted died. Save Andrew. After Kevin's death, Shion was made the chief engineer of the Cosmos project and Alan became her assistant. But Andrew's story does not end here. The same year as the Cosmos incident, Utic begins the Zohar Link experiments, like the ones they conducted on Miltia, but on Ariadne, because humans just don't learn. Andrew is sent to oversee the project and Margulis tells him that whether the project fails or succeeds, civilians will be affected. But Andrew is undeterred, proving his loyalty to Utic. 2 years later, well, what do you think? We've been over this many times, first on Earth, and then on Mictum, then on Miltia. The Link experiment goes wrong, and a space-time anomaly is created. The whole planet is swallowed by a space-time anomaly and it disappears into the imaginary number domain. In doing so, the whole freaking planet becomes a freaking Gnosis. I kid you not. This Gnosis is called Cathedral Ship because of how gargantuan it is. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the beginning of the first game. That only took 8 videos. Unfortunately, that won't be until the next video. So stick around for that. I hope you've enjoyed this and I will see you guys next time.